one of the greatest aspects of the European Union's propaganda was to convince people that the only reason you can be against the European Union is if you're a racist. So this would hamper down any conversation about reform of the European Union or outright EU skepticism. And I'm coming from Romania in order to tell you that this is not the case. My country doesn't have a problem with immigration. My country has a problem with emigration, people leaving the country and making it very difficult for Romanians to start a business here due to massive work shortage and due to competing with wages that are in other countries like Germany. Now, recently, people are starting to wake up to the EU problem. And the EU problem exists because most people don't know about what the European Union is, how it functions, the laws that it's passing, but more and more scandals are appearing. And the recent scandal that I talked about it on this channel, and it got banned in Germany. The video on YouTube got blocked in Germany. So it's now on BitChute, you can find it there. But basically this was regarding COVID. So during the pandemic, the Romanian government decided to shut down a lot of non-essential businesses. They decided to ban non-essential travel. So people were desperate to find work so that they can put food on the table. And the Romanian government allowed for a couple of contracts for people to travel to Germany in order to pick asparagus. So while people here weren't allowed to travel, all of a sudden it was acceptable to bus people around and to put them in an airport in a crowded area so that they can travel to Germany and pick asparagus. Like they wouldn't be able to do this to travel to some farm in order to pick vegetables from a Romanian farm, but they were allowed to go to Germany in order to pick the asparagus. And once they reached Germany, they weren't allowed to choose the company they will work for. And not only that, but they were told like that you are going to be quarantined at the company that you go. They had their IDs taken away from the company so that they can't leave. And they were paid below minimum wage, not the price that they agreed with to be paid here in the country when they signed the contract. And the reason these companies are doing this, because in the German press it was said, oh, Germans do not want to work for picking asparagus, like this is a job beneath them. We need to get Romanians to do it, the jobs that Germans don't want to do. The reality is like Germans never had the chance to get to these jobs. And it's very similar in the United Kingdom with fruit picking. Like I saw ads for the UK fruit picking that required people to speak Romanian or Bulgarian if they want to fruit pick. But the thing with Germany is that companies, and this is multinational companies we're talking about, like average farmers are actually decent people. We're talking about the multinationals here. And these companies, they found a way to pay people below minimum wage. And the way they do it is that they pay you minimum wage, but they charge you for sleeping in their barracks. So if you come from Romania, you have to sleep in their barracks, and they charge you for that, and they pay you below minimum. Now, if they were to hire Germans, then Germans wouldn't sleep in their barracks. They would sleep at home. And because of that, they would lose money. They would have to pay minimum wage, which is a lot higher. So this is one of the reasons they want foreign workers. Another reason is that they can abuse the foreign workers. They can make them work a lot more. They can make them work without using tools or without using any sort of gloves. Like picking asparagus is a very difficult job, which gets your fingernails to break if you don't use gloves or things like that. So they can do this because the Romanians do not speak German. And even the ones that do speak German, they don't want to sue the company because they realize, well, I just want to go home. I got my money, I want to go home. And most of these companies took advantage of the pandemic because, as I said, like the workers had to be quarantined at the company. And if the workers refused to work because they didn't agree with the contract or they didn't agree with the price, then all of a sudden they would be said, well, if you're not working, we're not feeding you. We're not going to give you food. So how can you be quarantined for 2 weeks at a company you're working for without getting food? Obviously, some of these workers decided to leave. And when they decided to leave, the cops were after them for breaking quarantine. So this was a massive scandal in my country. It was, televisions were talking about it. Then there's another scandal with Austrian corporations that are stealing wood from the Romanian forest. That's another topic. And today is another scandal that we're going to talk about. Now, a lot of people in my country, including myself, are doing something that the EU feared the most, which is to practice nationalism. And nationalism is being sold by the propaganda. It's like, okay, well, we're not going to allow people to become nationalistic because it might give rise to the next Hitler or something. But this is not the reason that they fear nationalism, okay? This has nothing to do with the reality. Like, let's be honest, Romania is not going to have a dictator, okay? Because you have a constitution, you have the rule of law. It's almost impossible right now in Eastern Europe to legitimately have like someone that's a dictator and starts World War III or some shit. No, the reason they fear nationalism is because a lot of Romanians, they go into a supermarket and they focused on purchasing Romanian products. They want to encourage Romanian businesses. They want to encourage people that live here to be able to prosper economically. And the reason are twofold. Like, number one, the multinational corporations are already large enough. They're already rich. They're already wealthy. Yeah, if you can help the little guy out, it's like an act of kindness and compassion. And the second thing is, like, when the pandemic hit, when COVID started, all of the borders immediately shut down, and we got no help from the European Union. It was like everyone is out for themselves. So obviously, you want to have a strong agricultural industry in order to feed the country if, heaven forbid, the EU collapses in the future. So, like, there are a lot of reasons to encourage nationalism. And again, like, my opinion is, like, if my country does well, then chances are I can do well. But if my country does poorly, then I will definitely do poorly because of lack of unemployment, political upheaval, and, it makes sense why you would support your own country. But again, like, the European Union doesn't like this. They do not like nationalism at all. And they have forbid Romania to advertise products that are made in Romania in supermarkets. So now a lot of people have noticed, and this is like in the Romanian news, that when you go to a supermarket, like, you used to see things like made in Romania, and they would have like a big logo on it, like big brand on it. It's like, yeah, this is made here. Like, purchase Romanian to encourage job growth in Romania. That doesn't exist anymore. The law forbids it. You know what's even more funny? Like, you can still have products that are like made in Germany on the shelf, and it's like big brand, made in Germany, made in Italy, blah, blah, blah. You're not allowed to have made in Romania. And this is separatial treatment for Romanians. Like, in other countries, in Austria, for example, you can still have products that say made in Austria. You can still have products like in Germany, in German supermarkets, made in Germany. You're allowed to do that, but not in Romania. And I think, like, this is because there was a conscientious purchase. People were starting, like, with the recent political upheavals and whatnot, like, people were literally starting to buy Romanian products. So they decided, all right, well, we need to stop that shit. And look, like, a lot of people just don't believe that this is the case, because, like, they're in Germany or they're in Austria, and they're saying, well, no, like, this doesn't happen in my country. What are you talking about? It's like, that's ridiculous. I bet it's not happening in France or Germany. Like, yeah, it's not happening in France or Germany. Because, like, the whole thing is that the European Union is not democratic. You have the legislator, which is pretty much controlled by big corporations. Like, all you have to do is to do lobby to one of these people, and then they will pass legislation that favors big companies, usually German, Austrian, French companies, and they get to dominate the market. They get to smash their competition. They get to expand it. Most often than not, they also do tax evasion, but like in legal ways. Like, here's how they do tax evasion, for example. Let's say you have a German company that's a supermarket chain or whatever, and they have to pay taxes. Well, what they do is that they say, well, we lent some money, we borrowed some money from the mother company in Germany, and now we have to pay it back, so we did a lot less profit than we expected. And if you want to have like the Romanian IRS to look into them, you'll find out that they have an army of very expensive lawyers that are going to bury the Romanian IRS in paperwork. And it's going to be very costly for them to prove anything. It's going to be a very long process. So the Romanian IRS instead just focuses on messing with the little businesses, with the little guy here, because he can't defend himself. The multinational corporation has the money to defend itself. And you'll see like what they do, like a supermarket would come in, they would lower the prices, like at a loss, they will operate at a loss. All the businesses around the supermarket go bankrupt, and then the supermarket raises the prices again. And it has happened time and time again. Like there was, again, a proponent of a legislation that would force like these massive hypermarkets to be at the edge of the town. So like you'd have the little businesses in the middle of the town and all of these big corporations outside. Yeah, the European Union didn't like that. So they definitely said that if you pass this, you're going to get fines. And it's all about corporatism. It really is. It has nothing to do with the welfare and the well-being of the little guy, of the citizen. They don't care. You know, like how does this advantage the average citizen by saying, okay, well, supermarkets can't say product made in Romania. There's already like lists on Facebook with products that you should buy when you go to a supermarket, but you know, does it have to be this way? Like, is it? How greedy are these fucks? You know, like this is my question. How greedy are these fucks? I don't think it's even that. I think it's also political because they don't want Romania to have an agricultural system. They want Romania to constantly send in workers to be abused in Germany and in other places. And no one talks about these abuses. You know, like this is why I really hate people who are pro-EU and they're like, oh yes, we want immigrants to come here. Yeah, you want immigrants to come there, but not to experience your way of life. You want immigrants to come there, not be forced to learn the language of the country you're in. And then you're okay when they get abused, when they're made to work 12 hours a day, when their ID cards are taken away. Yeah, you're okay with that shit. And if anyone complains, you call them a racist. I mean, there were Romanians that got sick of COVID. One of them died. Because, again, like none of the protections or the systems were in place that happened in my country. Like in my country, you weren't allowed to go out. You weren't allowed to go, like some businesses were shut down. But you could go to Germany out of desperation. Like, yeah, that was allowed. All of a sudden, COVID is going to take a commercial break while people are in a bus. So yeah, no, like this is like some of the arguments that people should use when they talk against the European Union. It's not democratic. It's run by corporations. It's for the benefit of multinational corporations. And it destroys the satellite countries. Places like Romania, Bulgaria, and you know anyone else that's going to join. They're not going to try to help you become independent. They're going to make sure that you're always reliant. I mean, sure, there's a lot of money coming into these countries. But it's not to make these countries independent so that they prosper at the same rate like Germany and France prospers. And if you complain, you're a racist.